My next guest is a returning guest. She's an avid sports fan. She definitely knows the world of mixed martial arts, and I couldn't think of a better person to bring on this week for UFC 262's fight week. Please welcome Chelsea Torres. How you doing, Chelsea?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Just been very busy, staying busy. Busy's good.
I know. Staying busy. That's what it's like being an adult now, huh?
I know, right? How have you been?
I've been good actually. I had a good weekend, day after Mother's Day, so it's all right. It's Monday. What can you do?
I know, right? How's the dog?
She's great. She's sitting right here, chilling. Actually, speaking of the dog, she kind of we kind of had quite the adventure the past couple weekends.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've gone through quite a bit. Nothing bad, sort of, but like it's just, we're learning things about each other. So
Yeah. Just so the audience knows, she has a beautiful dog.
I do, yeah. She's a German Shepherd. Her name's
Awesome dogs.
Kina. She's sweet, very smart.
Awesome, awesome, dogs. Well, I'm glad everything's been going good for you. And, we have you on because fights, 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 fights. All the time, good stuff. MMA, world's been going crazy with all these events, whether it's UFC, Bellator, PFL. We've been all over the place here. I mean, oh my goodness, I think we're very fortunate. Obviously, now some of the things haven't really gone our way this past month here in May with some injuries and removals and stuff. But nonetheless, we have great fights to talk about, results that have happened, over the last few weeks, and a lot of good things to look ahead to. Did you catch UFC 261?
I did. Oh man. I think for a lot of big time fight fans, UFC 261 might have been one of the best cards we've ever seen. Like in our modern day, and I would say at least like in the past 10 years or so, for me as a fight fan, I've only been watching it since about 2009. Yeah, it's the best card I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a
It was
solid
awesome.
10 plus years. I mean, you've definitely put in some time in there.
I guess that's true. But I didn't get to really watch, UFC and all that from the beginning. So, but I thought it was a great fight. I mean, from beginning to end, it was an emotional roller coaster, I would say.
Gosh, though, it sounds so crazy. 2009, right?
That's when I graduated high school.
Yeah, I was talking to Chris Lido, who's was in the UFC, and I was telling him I was going through the fights. We were reminiscing, and I was telling him how the very first matchup I saw was him versus Matt Hughes. Well, the first
Uh-huh.
matchup that I saw him in, that was '07. That was '07, '06, and I mean, I made him feel a little old. I was like, oh yeah, long long time. It's crazy.
I bet he likes that though, because it's like, dang, like this dude's been watching me. He knows, like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So I mean, it's crazy how the time flies, and I couldn't really. I started even like doing some research. I'm like, man, I remember seeing this fight, so and so. What year was that? I'm looking. I'm like, man, it's been a long time.
Time
Definitely,
flies when you're having fun.
definitely. No, I think so. I think a good definition of a fight card is, when you buy it and you tell yourself, okay, well, this was worth the money, in my opinion.
Yes,
Obviously,
for
there's,
sure.
everyone like the typical sport and sport fan, not just whether it's MMA, but in boxing and different kinds of things. They usually like pay for like the co-main event, the main event for sure. But
Mhm.
sometimes, rare often it's the co-main event as well. But I mean, this entire card was just worth it, from the start to the finish, even from the prelims, we got a lot of
Yep.
action, and it's a lot of nonstop things that were going on, whether it was unfortunately injuries, storylines, action itself, fans coming back. What was your takeaway from all this?
So at first, I wasn't too crazy about the fans being back. I knew it was inevitable, right?
You
Like,
you were you were one of the people I told everyone,
yes. I
for
just
sure.
when I remember last year when they took away the fans, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And I watched the first fight they had with no fans at all. And I just like, I couldn't look away. Like, I could not, I was just so focused on the fight because you heard everything, you hear the coaches, you hear every single hit. And to me, it just felt more intimate as a fight fan. And so I got used to that all last year. And I thought, I don't ever want to see the fans back, but it made sense to have the fans back for UFC 261 with the caliber of the fights that were there, the hype that was going on around, the fact, it was in Jacksonville's and Florida. It was cool. And then to actually watch the fight with the fans, it definitely elevated, I think. It elevated the card in
Yeah.
a better way that I thought.
Yeah, like it truly. So I know we were talking about this, Logan Paul and not Logan Paul. I'm sorry, Jake Paul. I
Jake
confused both
Paul.
of those guys, and we're talking about like how the event was, but and we're trying not to use the word spectacle with this thing, but this truly felt like a spectacle.
Mhm. Oh,
It
for
was
sure.
it,
It
it
was a
was
full
very
show.
fun. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. From the very first punch, that was a near finish, a near drop, and hearing the fans just be so electric and
Hmm.
seeing the blows and the action and the insane finishes, it was definitely one to remember. I think it was a real memorable event, just because I think it signals that we're trying to get back to normal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
And
it's good.
Dana White has been, to me, he's been so great in trying to keep things, as normal as possible for fight fans. And so I don't know. I just feel like he's kind of ahead of all the other sports when it comes to handling these kinds of things during a pandemic.
Yeah, you
So it
got to
worked
give the
out.
guy credit. You got to give him
Oh, hell
credit.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was there a specific fight that you really enjoyed? There's a lot of barn
Um,
burners here, man.
okay, so I'm gonna say this, but you can't like think I'm a weirdo. I
Guilty.
really enjoyed the Weidman fight
Why?
because because I don't know like what it is. Ever since I was younger, I like gross stuff. I like bloody things, broken bones, anything like that. I remember watching the fight between him and Anderson Silva when Silva broke his leg, and I thought, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then I get to see it again, but now Weidman, like I feel so bad for Weidman because I think we talked about this, but I really was excited to see him fight. Like I
Yeah,
felt like this was a fight that he really needed to win. He was the second fight on that card,
yeah, he
which
was.
is interesting because, the past few years, anytime that he's been on a fight, he's co-main, main, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. So this was interesting to see him on a lower part of the card. But it's kind of crazy when you see him go for that kick. He steps back and you look in his face. He doesn't even realize that he broke his foot yet until he tries to step back on that right leg. And then you realize he's like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
something's wrong. So as a fan, of all violent things, that was one of my favorite parts of the night. Was like, whoa, he broke a bone. I feel bad for him. I would not wish that on anybody or him again, but
Prayers on him.
I like seeing those things. I
Yeah.
like seeing broken bones. But to me, I was really excited for the co-main, Thug Rose and Shang Wiley. Like I was really, man, Thug Rose, she kind of just exceeded my expectations because I kind of was going for Shang. I really thought Shang would probably win this fight. But so I thought I really liked that fight. I don't know, all of them, even Shevchenko, but she dominates. I kind of thought she was going to dominate, and that's exactly what she did. She's just too high at her weight class, I think. And then the Usman Masvidal fight, didn't necessarily go, I think, the way that anybody thought, but it was still a good fight nonetheless.
Definitely. So let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
So let's see. We have Weidman, right? Unfortunately, gruesome injury, but I get
Yeah.
what you mean. I remember just telling my friends, life comes full circle. I mean, that is your like
Yeah.
true definition of life coming at you full circle. It's insane. You didn't even notice, you saw that leg just bend. Oh my goodness. I mean, I like violent stuff, right? It's sport, but wow, I couldn't believe everything. I mean, everything had to go perfectly wrong, in my opinion,
Exactly.
for that to happen though. So you remember you watched the first time when
With him
Silva?
and Silva.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at Dave and Buster's. And I remember I was standing near the bar and I was watching it. And then I saw it happen, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, I remember that perfectly. That's crazy. But you're right, full circle. It's weird how
Full
things
circle.
kind of happen that way.
Yeah, I mean, I was thrown off. I was like, well, what the hell just happened? I was really excited for this fight too, and I was telling
Mm-hmm.
everybody like, oh, this is gonna be a barn burner here, and holy crap! And you know what the worst part is though? So Uriah Hall, and I'm not sure if you saw like the post fights comments or or whatever happens after the fights. I usually like to watch him just to see it gives you clarity on where Dana White's at. To Dana White, this didn't even count as a win for Uriah Hall.
Oh, I don't even think Uriah Hall felt it as a
Yeah,
win.
yeah,
You
for sure.
know?
It just didn't do anything for him. It doesn't move up the
No,
standings. He's not moving down the standings. He's
nothing.
it
It
sucks.
just because it's like, I mean, it's one of those situations like you obviously have no control over, right? Just like you said, anything that could go wrong went wrong. But it's like, dang, that really sucks. Like they both went through a full camp. They were ready to, come out, battle it out, and hope to, move up or whatever in the standings. And then, like, you could see it in Uriah's face at the end of it. He was just like, well, this sucks. Like, this is not the way he wanted to win. I don't think any fighter would want to win like that,
I mean, definitely. And then especially for like Weidman, it's tail end of, he's 36, 37 years old,
Yeah.
going to be out for at least another year, getting back into the grind as well with that. I mean, I'm sure it's not by any means an easy injury to come back from. It was a tough one. It was a tough one to watch. I mean, obviously from a violent perspective here, Chelsea Torres here. I mean, it was definitely. I mean, it was a highlight. It was a highlight. That's for sure.
Highlight. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll give you my maybe not so popular take here
Okay.
when it comes to the Shevchenko fight. The
Yes.
best way for me to describe this, and I'm as unbiased as possible. Respect to every single fighter out there, especially that goes out there and does it and performs at a high level. No disrespect to Andrade. It just felt like they just needed somebody to throw at Shevchenko, to be honest with you. And that's what you felt like. I mean, am I wrong?
No, not at all. Because even when I saw Andrade that, she was going to be fighting her next, I thought, well, maybe grappling wise, she could
Let's see, right?
get her. Yeah, she could give her a run basically. But I thought, man, if they stay on the ground or if they stay standing, striking, I just didn't see it. I just didn't see Andrade really making anything happen out of this fight. And Shevchenko literally just showed how dominant she was. She's so smart. She's so quick. And she showed it. It was kind of just clear cut and simple, which is kind of sad. It's sad for the division. I guess I'll put it that way.
Yeah, like and I'll talk about this fight, for this week's for this opponent, but for her possible next possible opponent. But I thought like Cynthia Calvillo was somebody, I was interested in, it's a new name and Cynthia's a very talented fighter. But I always told myself, I think she's small, like to be able to compete with like a Shevchenko. And when she fought Jessica I, and Calvillo's as good as anyone, she trains at Team Alpha Male. So with Jessica, when I saw her fight against Jessica and she won the fight with a decision, I was telling myself, man, she looks small. Like she looks small for this division.
Mm-hmm.
So she won, but then she fought against Caitlin Chukagian. Here we are with our
Chikagian.
part
Yeah.
two of our pronunciation here. But
Yeah.
but so she fought her and she got dominated. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the size made a difference. So I don't even think that. I mean, I don't know where Shevchenko goes from here. I I'm not really enticed to see the Amanda Nunez fight. I mean, I'll watch it again. I'll watch it, but I mean, I don't think it's something that neither of them are interested in. I just don't
Right.
know where the UFC goes here when it comes to Shevchenko, to be honest with you.
I'm right there with you. It's kind of interesting. I was talking to somebody today more so about boxing. We were actually talking about Canelo
Okay.
and talking about just like how he is basically in his prime, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you could probably even say he's been in his prime the past 6-7 years.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting, like he's in his prime right now and he's just the best fighter, obviously, that no one else can really go against. And that's kind of how I feel about Shevchenko. She's just dominating her weight class right now. And does it make sense for them to just throw women at her? Well, maybe for a fight's sake, but like I just don't think anybody competes against her right now. So it's kind of cool as a fight fan because we're getting to see these fighters in their prime, and it's kind of cool to see them at the top and no one else can go against them. But it's also just kind of like, okay, well, now what? What can she do? Who can she go against? I think that's just where everybody's kind of unsure of what's next with her.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a fan of dominance. I like dominance. I like
Mm-hmm.
champions. I like dynasties. I was never against the whole like KD, going to the Warriors or the
Okay, yeah.
Patriots dynasty. Like I like super teams. I like seeing dominance. It's something to watch, especially people continuing, to be able to stay on that dominant run. I think KD is the worst for going to Golden State, though. I'll tell you, I'll go on the record and say that. But regardless, I like seeing dominant runs. The thing is, though, I think with Shevchenko, it's kind of different, like, and we've talked about this on and off camera. I've told you, I think like Juliana Pena, I think she's got an outside shot. Now, she has a not just an outside shot, but I think she could give Amanda a problem grappling. You know, would I be shocked if Juliana gets a win? You know, sure, it's an upset, right? But there's a part of me that believes that there's still like a shot. There's still a legit shot. I didn't think Megan Anderson had a legit shot. I thought Cyborg could definitely challenge Amanda. So you raise questions and certain debates with
Yeah.
Shevchenko though, as she's fighting the competition. To me, there is no debate. It's crazy, right? Because I still want to look at something or a flaw like in Amanda Nunez to try to just make the fights entertaining for myself. And Amanda is the best to ever do it, as far as like female combat sports. But Shevchenko's the one where I'm telling myself, okay, well, there's no way in hell like she's gonna lose this fight, unless she gets clipped.
Agreed. Yeah.
So it's crazy. It's crazy to say. I don't know where she goes next. I mean, she'll probably take on whoever the UFC throws at her, dominate that as well. I just don't know. I don't know where they go. It's a weird situation.
It really is a weird situation. And what's funny is like, I would think from any other opponent or any other competition, they would almost be scared of her, right? Because
Yeah.
I just saw on Shevchenko's Instagram the other day that she was like training again. And I'm like, and the first thought that came to mind, what are you training for? Like, I know she trains because like because yeah, that's her job, right? And she loves it. And I get that. But it's just like, okay, but why? Like, what's next? And I don't know. I don't know if she even knows what's next.
Attention to detail. A lot of like I think not to brag on the New England Patriots, but during that Brady era, it was a lot of paying attention to details and not working everyone. I think that's what she's trying to do. And obviously, I think I understand your perspective where it's who can beat you, you know what I mean? I think you at 80%, can beat anyone, in that sense. So it's a very interesting situation. But I'll tell you one that was awesome to watch was watching Rose, claim that title, even though I believe are we guilty? Are we guilty on picking against Rose?
I don't know. I don't think so.
But I'm saying because I know you were on like that week. I for sure I picked her to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have her losing?
Yeah, I really
Okay, so we're both guilty.
wanted Shang to win because I just thought, man, this is her time. She just has that discipline. She's a very good striker. And I thought I'd like to see that. But Thug Rose, something else, man. That was a cool fight to see.
Yeah,
I was impressed.
Nolan King from MMA Junkie was telling me that when Rose decides to win a belt, she does it in style.
Mm-hmm.
God, man, that's all I could say. I think that's the perfect way to like mark it down right there. And it was good seeing her get her hand raised and the emotions. And it's a beautiful part of MMA. Unfortunately, not for Shane, but there's the thrill and agony of defeat and all these things. But good for Rose,
Good for Rose. I mean, you could tell the focus that she had throughout this entire camp. I think it's so cool to see Pat Barry right there along with her,
Right.
And her boyfriend or husband or whatever, and coaching her along the way and just hyping her up. To me, that's just a different kind of dynamic that you don't see in any kind of sports. And for some reason, it's very common in the fighting world. I mean, we saw that with Mike Perry and his girlfriend, right? But yeah. I think this kind of relationship is just very different and they make it work. It's cool. I love to see it. And I mean, I was always a fan of her. Just because I picked against her doesn't mean that I think, that I'm not a fan, right?
No, for sure.
Yeah, but it's cool to see that she was able to come back and win that belt again. That's pretty badass.
Oh, for sure. I mean, again, a phenomenal moment. It was heartwarming. Deserved it, earned it, especially, from what she went through, whether it was opening up, on, like some like mental depression stuff, and then just going through, I guess, what's the best way to put this? The after effects or the aftermath of this whole McGregor and the Dolly incident, that, kind of like gave her a little bit of trauma, and she spoke on that. And then, to being able to focus back, get into fighting, and then come in and reclaim her belt against somebody that was on fire, somebody that was on fire. It was a great thing to watch.
It is. And I think what's really cool about her and why a lot of people can probably relate to her, because she's not like, a lot of the other big fighters that you see that are, I don't want to say trying to get attention, but like the trash talk or, go out and look for that entertainment factor. She's literally here for a job. She gets in and she gets out, and she doesn't care for all the attention, which I think is really cool. So
yeah, it's crazy. What about that man Usman just
dominates.
Crazy,
exactly what it is.
He shut him up.
literally shut him up. I thought it was so funny. I saw so I watched a lot of the I always watch the embedded videos and all of that right beforehand. And one of the things I saw actually earlier that day, or maybe it was the Friday, that one interview where Masvidal's saying like something along the lines of how Usman like can't like doesn't have a strong punch or something like that. You know what I'm talking about? Did you
Yeah,
watch that part?
I know, but I understand he
Okay.
mocked him for his finish, the way
He
he
did,
goes
yeah.
about fights.
He was basically saying like, you know, a man like that can't I don't know, but doesn't have a strong punch. And then it's kind of like, hospital, you just got knocked out from that strong punch. So
I mean, talk about eating words, right?
literally eating words. No, that was a great fight.
Crazy, crazy. So, I'll tell you, and I'll pitch this to you.
Okay.
So I was watching the fights, and everyone like in the room that was in the room with me was telling me, oh, this Masvidal guy can really win, or he can really win. A lot of the people that I've talked to, both like whether they're just fans or just actually like work in the MMA community, were telling me that like, oh, this is gonna be a different fight. Like they're picking Masvidal to win this fight. A lot of people. I was very surprised, and people are still going about this debate. Can he do it? Can he, whatever it is, pretty much, can he do it? And I was telling myself, can Kamaru, my mental thing is, I want to see Kamaru fight because I want to see, can he compete with George St. Pierre, which in my opinion is like the best welterweight to do it. Could
Mm-hmm.
he actually compete with him? That was my mindset. And then after watching that, I told myself, oh, he can definitely compete with George St. Pierre. Not only can he compete, but I think he could win that fight. I mean, what do you think?
Man, I mean, would that actually happen though? Is that I've seen talks about
No,
this. Oh, okay.
no, I don't think so. No.
But you okay, but you just mean like skilled wise
Yeah,
comparison.
yeah, like the best. We
Yeah.
all have like greatest of all time, debates,
Mm-hmm.
and we talk about, can so and so, perform or compete at his peak with this certain opponent. George St. Pierre to me is one of the best to ever do it. Definitely the best welterweight I've ever seen do it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kamaru could today, right now, Kamaru could definitely push George St. Pierre at his best. Push him, and not only push him, but can beat him.
I definitely agree with that. And I say that mainly because you see Kamara with that athletic factor. He has that freak athletic nature to him already. Not only that, but he's very skilled, obviously. And then he just has a really high fight IQ. He's very smart. And you saw that in the octagon was it last weekend? 2 weekends ago.
2 weeks
I don't
ago.
know. Yeah, 2 weekends ago. But you saw that against Masvidal. You've seen that in all the other fights. He just has a way of knowing how to break down the fighter, and he just has a good strategy. Now, GSP does too, right? Like you said,
Definitely.
by far, probably the best welter weight fighter we've ever seen in MMA. But I think, yeah, I mean, Usman right now, he just has, I don't know if anybody else really could go against him right now. He's just, again, another fighter that's so dominant. And it's cool to see him in the octagon, especially against Masvidal. Like, he's just so quick, so smart. There was just nothing getting past him.
Yeah, would you agree though that Usman's not getting the respect he deserves?
Who's he not getting respect from?
Well, a lot of people, even then, like people were saying that Masvidal could win this fight. They were still not giving him any love. A lot of people going into the Gilbert Burns fight were picking Gilbert Burns to win that fight. Crazy.
Yeah. The thing about Usman that I've noticed is I think it's his character. He has like I don't want to say a character flaw, but he has like certain characteristics. His personality, I don't think, is very likable.
Okay.
And I think I think it's just the way that he comes off. Like, he kind of comes off as like, he knows he's good, right? I mean, if you're a fighter and you're in this industry and you're at the top, like, you got to have that confidence. But I don't know how to describe it. It's just something like he's not that likable. And of course, you're going against somebody like Masvidal, who is very likable, who's funny, who's cool, you want to hang out with, you want to be able to go have a beer with him, later on tonight. Usman, I don't know if I'd want to go have a beer with him later. Yeah. I think that's what it is. It's just like the personalities. Usman doesn't really seem to have that likable factor. That's what I noticed in this the last fight, the last card, the UFC 261, just with all the hype, the media, everything. I can see what you mean, how he's not really getting that respect that he deserves, because obviously he's good at what he does, but I think it's just the fact that people are not drawn to his personality or something.
Yeah.
That's what I've noticed.
crazy. But you know what? So to me, the craziest thing was that, people were again questioning this whole Masvidal thing, and I'm telling myself, well, okay, well, let's see what happens. People didn't ask how good or how much better Usman got though
He
on
looks
that fight.
so good. I mean, but that was expected, right? I feel like at this point, every single time you see a fighter in a new fight, you got to see how they fix some of the flaws from the time before. I think one thing that everybody did not want to see was exactly what Masvidal was saying. Like, don't play footsies with me. Like, let's actually like stand up, let's strike, let's do something. And that's what you saw, and but even then, going back to the first matchup that they had, it's strategy. Like,
Yeah,
I think some people don't understand that, when you see guys on the ground for a long time or against the cage for a long time, you hear the fans start booing or whatever. And I think it's just they want that entertainment part of it. They get bored. But again, it's usually just strategy. That's the way I see it.
yeah. I mean, I don't blame the guy. So let me ask you this:
Mm-hmm.
you've worked in the media field, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you've been on TV, news, all that stuff, correct? Production.
Yep.
How important is image, when you're trying to, like, I guess, move yourself up the ranks, be promotable, be somebody that's very marketable? How important is image, in your opinion, for athletes though that are trying to like take the next step in that sense?
That's a good question. I guess it kind of depends on what, well, I mean, I guess it kind of almost depends on like what sport they're in
Yeah,
and kind of where they're at. You know, I've interviewed high school kids and I've interviewed college kids and I've interviewed actual athletes too. And so I've been able to see kind of how that image has been portrayed and what they do. But I guess in a general sense, I feel like image is very important if you do want to be liked. I think if you don't want to be liked, you don't care to be on social media, you don't care to, every usually depending on whatever sport you're in or contract, you have to do interviews, right? You
yeah,
usually can't just get out of those, especially like press conference, pre, all that stuff. But I mean, if you want to be liked, if you want to have a fan base, image is kind of everything, I think, right?
yeah. So the only reason why I ask is I think you made the best point. I mean, some of that doubt could be from, just people not liking how Usman is, or maybe conducting himself. Not that he's conducting himself in a bad way. He knows he's good,
Mm-hmm.
and he's letting his actions talk, in the cage. But Masvidal's a guy that everyone wants to hang out with. He does. He wears Tony Montana suits. He eats pizza, grabbing two slices and putting them together, and So I mean, he's the kind of guy you'd like to go to a party with.
Yep, for sure.
Image has helped him.
Image.
So it's a
It's
very interesting one.
it's definitely elevated him for sure. Very interesting.
So we talked about this before now, but now we can officially, announce. Now the UFC officially announced it. Marvin Vittori gets the next shot.
Yep.
Marvin Vittori, what do you think, man? Izzy, that's your boy.
I know. I'm actually excited for this because I feel like last fight that I saw with Marvin Vittori, I thought he looked great. And, he looks so good right now. Like, this is his time to be getting that shot. But man, I like Izzy, and I almost feel like the same for him too. He's kind of just kind of at the top of the game. I like his athleticism, but he's also just so disciplined and he has great striking. He can get on the ground. He's going to control that octagon. And I feel like that's probably what will help him win in most cases. But going against Vittori, that's different. I'd really have to break it down to kind of see how that matchup would be between the
Definitely, especially because, there's a slight disadvantage for Izzy. He won the first fight and he has to fight this guy again. I always think it's more of an advantage going into a rematch when you've lost
two. Mm-hmm.
than it is when you win, just because, you can make the adjustment back there and see what clearly didn't work for you.
You're saying that Izzy has the advantage or
No,
disadvantage?
Izzy does not have the advantage going into this fight,
Oh,
in my
I see.
opinion. I think Marvin can definitely win that fight. It's going to be an interesting one. Sucks for Whitaker, though. Unfortunately, the UFC wanted to put this fight together pretty fast. I don't know why. I mean, from what I heard, Izzy wanted to get back in the octagon pretty fast. So, there's that. But I don't feel like Whitaker deserved that shot more, just because. I think quality opponent wise, I think Whitaker ran the gauntlet. You know.
But I think you were the one that told me though, or maybe I read it. But I mean, Whitaker didn't even if they had offered it to him, he didn't want it right now.
No, he didn't want it because. So I remember
It's
talking to you about
timing,
it.
right?
Yeah, he has to quarantine 2 weeks going back to Australia, and then coming
Mm-hmm.
back, he has to quarantine another 2 weeks. So that's already a month essentially in quarantine. Plus, it's under two, like the fight's like in 2 months, so a month is just quarantine.
Yeah,
You got to
it
get
just
your
doesn't make
sparring in.
sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame Whitaker. Just I feel like the UFC should have waited. You know?
Instead of rushing it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
again, the champ decides though.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got an interesting one for you. So
Okay.
Diego Sanchez got cut by the UFC. Did you see this?
Oh man, Diego Sanchez. I was hoping we'd talk about this. I
Oh,
think
got you. I got
I
you.
don't have anything I don't have anything crazy to say. I feel bad for the guy.
Okay.
Um I remember seeing Diego Sanchez years ago okay, well, I know he was like the first winner in Ultimate Fighter.
Yes.
I didn't watch that, but I watched when he was like really in the UFC, like fighting, whatever. And I thought, this dude is crazy. I like him. I love how crazy he is. He's like, is so scrappy in the octagon. I just really like him. He is one of those people that was so likable because of his personality. And not only that, but then he was winning. He was actually a good fighter. But man, everything that kind of happened recently. And then today I watched that one video that came out on Friday with him and his coach,
Yeah.
where they're like doing some kind of, I don't even know what you call it, training.
Okay.
Did you see the video where he's
I
like punching his head?
so I didn't see it. I didn't see it. So I saw a different one. I
Okay.
saw him and his coach like trying to like lecture like John Anik and your girl Megan O'Leary on how like they're commentating and stuff and how it like is giving Diego and like his school or his tactics like a negative image.
They
Yeah.
keep blaming the broadcast
Yeah. Did
team.
you see that one?
I didn't see it, but I read a little bit about it.
Megan
I
went
didn't.
off. Shout out to her. She went off on him.
What'd she say?
She didn't cuss or anything like that. She conducted herself in a professional manner, obviously, and she just like she did raise her tone at him, telling him like, "You're coming in here and you're telling us how to do our job. I mean, it's not about you. That he's making it about himself
Mm-hmm.
instead of Diego." And he kind of was pretty much. You're saying that it's like negative image on his school, not really so much Diego. It's
Mm-hmm.
just I don't know. He's leeching off Diego. I guess that's the best way to say
Yeah.
it.
And I feel like that's what we've seen a lot just in the past week. It's kind of crazy how this has exploded and then he gets released. And I've seen Diego on a bunch of interviews, or just like random little interviews here and there. And I hear him talk and you just think like, I have one friend that keeps saying like he is mentally ill, like he needs to get checked out or and it's like, I almost feel the same way. I don't want to say that because I like Diego Sanchez, but man, he just sounds kind of crazy right now.
Did you see the video of him like chasing people in? There was like a sparring cage in an octagon, and
No,
he was chasing people with like a knife.
no.
Yeah, there's one. There's one out there.
Oh my gosh. That's what I mean. I feel like the poor dude is like mentally ill, or he's just, even if he's not mentally ill and he has no actual like
Yeah,
diagnosis, he's just a different kind of person. He's like one of those weirdos that kind of does his own thing. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And right now he's just in a very dark time, I think, of his life, which is really sad because you would think that I think the way that him and his coach went about it to Dana White and the rest of UFC saying, "Oh, give me your medical records," and just calling them out constantly, it made them look even worse when they could have done all of this behind doors, figured their shit out, and who knows, like maybe Diego could have gotten help. It's just a weird situation.
yeah. I don't. I mean, it's definitely. I think Stefan Bonner's in on it too with them too.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard. So I think that video I told you I saw, Stefan
Uh-huh.
Bonner was recording it. He was recording
Oh.
it. Like they were recording this. Like the UFC was not recording this. They had like a fighter meeting and stuff. And he went with Diego, and they were the ones that were recording this. UFC wasn't recording this. They were just it was a fighter meeting, and this guy just inserted himself in that situation. So
Hmm.
sucks. I mean, got your boy kicked out of the UFC pretty much.
It's really unfortunate.
God, I just don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, obviously though, the thing is, I think something a bad quality is you being wrong and not seeing it, you know.
And
So
that's exactly what this is right now, you know?
it's a sad one though. We'll see what happens there. So big one for you. Bellator happened this past weekend. I just wanted to give a special shout out to Johnny Cupcake Campbell. He was on the show last week. He was the biggest underdog on that card.
Biggest, what do you mean by biggest? Like in
So
betting?
like yeah, betting wise.
Ooh,
Yeah.
how big was it?
So I don't know the specific number. I just know that he was the biggest underdog because that's what was being covered, and that Henry Corrales was just going in there and he was just gonna have like a tune-up fight pretty much. Because so Johnny took this fight on 30 days notice,
Ooh.
so he was already like a late replacement for the fight, and pretty much he had like no business doing being there. He's this guy late replacement. He was supposed to get mauled and he won second round finish.
Awesome.
So he got
Congrats.
a Bellator contract out of that. So shout out to him.
That is badass.
Yeah, so that's shout out to him. He was on the show, so it was pretty awesome to see that. And then PFL was on a couple weeks since we talked. Great action. I'll tell you this takeaway though: the talent that PFL is getting is legit now.
Yeah.
Like it's growing. It's growing. The first weekend, Tyler Diamond was able to win in that fight. In that fight that weekend. First weekend though, there was two champions that. So this is the third season. There was two repeat champs. One in the featherweight, one in the lightweight. So both of those guys have won the previous two titles from the previous two seasons. They both lost. Yeah,
Dang,
they
big
both lost.
upsets.
Opening round. Clay Collard beat Anthony Pettis as well.
Oh, I did see that. Well, I saw the end of it. I didn't see the whole fight.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm telling you, PFL's coming up. I think this whole format tournament style thing is really gonna work out for them. It makes it interesting, you know. The point
It
system's great.
does. I think that's what I like about it, even though I am not an avid watcher like you. I should be, but I'm not. But I keep up with it, on social media, and I'll watch like the highlights and stuff. But I think that's what's so intriguing about it. And I want more people to know about it because it does have that tournament style that you don't see in any other leagues. It's just different. It reminds me of Mortal Kombat, and that's why I like it so much.
Dude, did you watch the movie?
I did.
I have not watched the movie.
You
Let's see.
haven't? The fight scenes and the killing scenes are great.
Okay, so watch Mortal Kombat on HBO Max. Been a lot of fights, you know. There's been a lot of fights.
I know. You've been busy.
So, but let's go to UFC. So I just wanted to cover that real quick with you. UFC 262, UFC 262 is this weekend. Again, great fights. Even though we've lost a
Mhm.
couple. Great fights. You know, we have Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira going up for the lightweight title. Finally, ever since this whole Khabib fiasco, and by
Oh,
fiasco, I just really mean Dana White just not leaving the guy
yeah.
alone. Come on.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, just leave the
Can
dude
you blame
alone.
Dana White though? It's like that's just in his nature to go after the big money fight, the big money fighter constantly. Dana White's going to try to pull for that. I think Khabib almost fell for it at one point, and then he was like,
Well,
eh.
I'll give you this one though. He said he never entertained it.
Oh, okay. Well, then there we go.
Yeah,
Never
so
entertained it.
he never entertained it. So that's gonna be a good main event. We have Beneil versus Tony Ferguson. It's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
very good fight. Kaylin Chukagian versus Vivian Ruajo. You see, there we go with the
I think that's
pronunciation. Yeah,
right.
pronunciation here. Oh, it's real can be really off sometimes here. So it's gonna be good fights. We lost Edmund Shabazian, so if you're looking forward to watching Edmund Shabazian versus Jack Hermanson, that'll be on the May 22nd card. So that just got moved. We're still awaiting to see if they're gonna put up a fifth fight in that main card. They should.
You
They
think
should.
so?
Oh, they definitely
I
should. I
mean, it's a
mean,
whole week before, so they might, yeah.
yeah. I mean, you gotta get your money's worth.
Yeah,
If Dana wants to stop all this, bad activity when it comes to his streaming,
that's true.
gotta
Wait,
put a fifth fight.
is this gonna be a full crowd also or no?
You know what? It is gonna be. It's in Houston.
Oh, it is in Houston. That's
Yep,
right.
it's in
Okay.
Houston, sold out.
That's right. It is sold out. I forgot it was even in Houston because I
Yeah,
remember.
for a
Oh,
second there, I just reminded myself. Yeah, it is in Houston.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Good to
So,
know.
so let's talk about Benil and Tony though. Have you
Yes,
watched both? You've watched both these guys fighting.
I have.
You have.
Yes.
So Benil's very good. Tony, I'll tell you. I'll give you a take on Tony real quick. A lot
Okay.
of people are coming off the bandwagon. People are saying, Tony was the guy that could have beaten Khabib.
Okay.
And a lot of people have come off the bandwagon. But I'm telling people, can't really fault the guy. The guy lost to two absolute studs, and it was right. dead at the beginning and middle of the COVID era, COVID timeline here for us, where a lot of people weren't doing a lot of proper sparring. A lot of people didn't know how to handle this. How could you spar? How contagious is this is? A lot of people are just taking different kinds of precautions. And Tony made the mistake of cutting weight twice within like a month span. So that didn't help. So he went out there, he lost to Gaethje. Then again, he's still trying to get his footing right as far as like the whole training thing. Everyone's still trying to like ease back, from the pandemic at that time. And he lost. He lost to Charles Oliveira. Both of those guys who have competing for either an interim or a world championship at that point. I'm telling people, don't get off the bandwagon yet. Tony still got it in him. If he loses his fight, which I believe, it's a very big pressure fight for him, then I can see people doing that. But I feel like a lot of people are overreacting here. Where are you at with all this?
So I think out of all of the, maybe not all of the fights in this card, but this one probably has the best matchup, I think. Okay. Ferguson and Dariush, just because I feel like this can honestly go either way. Ferguson, I've never been like too crazy about him, but I've never thought that like he couldn't take his own. I didn't know people were jumping off the bandwagon already. I understood his issues that he had last year. So I get why, maybe that's why people think that way now. But I think if you know Ferguson, if you follow him on social media, if you've seen his fights, see the way that he fights, it's kind of interesting with this matchup against Dariush because they almost have the same kind of fighting style. They're both just very like lanky and different. They're just not that regular orthodox style that you would see. Sure. And so this one I think would be interesting. I think if it were to go to the ground, that's what I really want to see in this fight. I want to see more of like a grappling match. I think if it's standing though, I almost have Dariush winning because I just think his striking his striking power is probably a little bit heavier than Ferguson, but man, we've seen Ferguson take shots to the chin and just last 3, 4, 5 rounds. So it's a 3-round fight. But I don't know. It's almost a toss-up. It's a really tough one.
Yeah, for all the reasons you said. I mean, I think Benil's a very tough guy, and I feel bad. Not that I feel bad. But I'm telling myself, Tony, man, Justin Gaethje, then Oliveira, and then Benil, and for all we know, like Benil could be a guy that's 1 or 2 fights away from competing for a world championship.
It's true at this point. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very tough one. It's hard to pick here. I'm gonna lean with Tony. I think Benil's been very active, and it wouldn't surprise me. But I have faith in Tony. I think Tony's gonna get it done, just because I feel like he's seen what doesn't work. I feel like again with the COVID restrictions, and I think we've gotten a better hand on the situation as far as like knowing what works, what doesn't, for the most part. I think that he's just gonna be in for a good full camp. I think he's gonna have a good camp. I think he's gonna go in there, and I think he's gonna perform and shock everyone. But it's crazy to say that Tony Ferguson's gonna shock people here.
I guess, yeah, at this point. What's funny is this time around I've paid, and I've watched, I watched his fights that he had last year and years before, but this is probably the first fight where I've like really paid attention to him as a person. And I was thinking about it the other day, like, man, he's kind of a kooky person. Like he's kind of like, I see where they get Boogeyman from, because he's kind of just like scary but like funky, it's just something up in those brain neurons. He's a funky character, but he's cool.
Boogeyman, I like that. What is it? His nickname is El Cucuy.
Yeah. El
Okay,
Cucuy.
Oh my god, my mom would always tell me, if you don't behave, El Cucuy's gonna come.
Yeah.
I can definitely. That's such a badass nickname though.
Hell yeah, it is.
El Cucuy.
It's so cool.
Benil though, oh my goodness, Benil's won 6 in a row.
It's
crazy.
He's like one of those guys that I don't think a lot of people, well, I don't know. I mean, if a lot of people are getting off the bandwagon of Ferguson, they're obviously thinking that Benil is going to win this fight.
Yes. So I've had a lot of people tell me like, oh, I think his time has passed by. It sucks that he never got the Khabib fight. Tony was a guy, he got an interim title fight, but he never managed to go in there and fight for the world title. And with Khabib, do you know about this whole Tony and Khabib fiasco? I mean, how many times was this fight like called off. Was it, I think, like 5 times
I
already?
think it was 5 times.
It's insane, you know. And then I think like the week or the day or a couple of days before the fight, this guy like messed up his knee when he fell off. You know, I don't know. There's like an elevator incident. I don't know what it was. It's just almost like,
Something.
wow, like this is ridiculous. It's cursed.
Yeah, I
Like that.
know.
This is like the legit curse of like mixed martial arts.
I think so. I think you're right. And going back to Dariush, I was kind of I saw his last fight that he had, and I thought, man, this guy's somebody to watch. But I didn't really watch any of his fights that he had before that. And so now that he is going against Tony Ferguson, I feel like this is the time for him to really outshine. And like you said, if he wants to go for a title shot, he can make it happen. So I guess for me, I'm just kind of surprised that even so many people are actually talking about him, because I haven't seen that yet.
Of Benil.
Of Benil, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's on the rise. I feel like after this co-main event matchup, it's the perfect time to do it. You know, Texas is has usually a pretty crazy crowd. You know, they sold out the whole freaking arena. I mean, I think this is the time. I think if you're gonna put on a statement and have people like see who you are against Tony Ferguson, co-main event of this event, it's not a bad time to do it.
Not at all.
Oof, Michael Chandler though, Oliveira, it's
Yeah.
gonna be a good fight though, man. Oh, this is a sick
I,
fight.
I want to hear who you have first.
Okay, so I think I've always said this. I think Chandler's gonna win this fight,
Okay.
and I'll give you this. So no matter who like wins this, it's gonna be a good story. I like good stories. I try not to like make them, dictate like wherever I go with like my fight picks or like have like judgment calls on them. But I do like good stories. I'm a person. I like feel good stories.
Mhm.
I'm not heartless. So, I think with Michael Chandler, he is the guy that couldn't make it in Bellator in the sense where he lost to Patricio. Didn't couldn't hang with the very best there. And then he played his cards right. He was able to beat Benson Henderson, went on to go to the UFC now. And then after, a crazy debut, which you couldn't have done any better, goes out there, gets himself a title opportunity, and has the legitimate opportunity to be the king of the lightweight division, which is one of the UFC's premier, divisions here. I mean, we talk about the levels of competition. When it comes to Oliveira, a guy that started off in the UFC really young, has been on a massive tear, 8-fight win streak, and he's been criticized a lot, whether people were saying that he's not tough enough, he's just not very skilled, he can't stand up, even though he displayed all that ability against Tony. People were still questioning whether he could stand, whether he can really compete with these vets, and he's put himself in prime position for a legit championship run here. I think it's a good story. I think Chandler closes the distance, though. I think that he's able to close the distance. It's kind of similar how he did it with Dan Hooker, and I think he gets the finish in the first round. To be honest with you, calling it right
Ooh.
now.
Finish in the first round. I love it.
I
So
think
I
so.
actually had Oliveira winning this.
Ooh, let's
I
hear it.
know. And okay, so I love this matchup. I love the way that Chandler fights. I like that he's a lot more low to the ground, and he does close the distance. He'll put that pressure on you inside the octagon, which I love. But Oliveira, I think what's so interesting about these two, and I was thinking about this a lot today. Oliveira has the highest submission victories in the UFC, right? But Chandler has never been submitted. And so this really reminds me of the first time, and I don't know why, but it's just like this kind of statistic reminds me of this matchup of DC and John Jones the first time around, when DC had 100% takedown defense, and he got taken down like 3 or 4 times in that fight against John Jones. And so I'm curious, when you see these stats and you think of these things with these fighters, I'd be curious to see if Chandler will actually get submitted by Oliveira. I think he possibly can. And again, the storyline, it's those human interest stories, no matter who wins, like it's going to be great. I think Chandler has that he has that likable factor to him. If you've been watching any of his stuff, that he's a dad, and, he loves being a dad and blah, 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 right? Oliveira, he kind of just comes from that gritty lifestyle, Brazilian lifestyle, jujitsu. And I don't know. I have Oliveira, but I don't know. I didn't think about, which round, or I honestly don't even know if if it'll be a submission. Wait, what did you say? First round, what?
I said he'll TKO him. I think it'll be like Dan Hooker style. I think that he's gonna go. I think it's a really. I'm telling you. I think it's a bad matchup for Oliveira just because the pace that Chandler is able to push. I think he closes the distance against Charles.
A
I
lot
think
quicker.
Charles is phenomenal on the ground,
Mhm.
and what you said with your statistics there, I think he's phenomenal. He has an edge on there, but I think
Chandler
Chandler
has speed.
motor too, though speed, the
Yeah.
way you saw him move around against Dan, and I mean he really overwhelmed them and fast. He did it fast. So I
Hmm.
think, and also I think that Chandler's gonna want to go. He's motivated to get this fight done in a similar way because he doesn't want to take damage because around the corner it's McGregor and I don't think and Poirier, but I don't think now Chandler's not the guy that I think was looking past
Right.
whatever the events are, but he's already called it out. He's saying he wants the winner of Poirier and McGregor, big money fight for him there. And I think that he's trying, he has a mission. Not only does he want to win and win in style, but I think he wants to win without taking the least amount of damage as possible. Obviously, what fighter doesn't, right? But I think a lot of these guys, obviously, they could win fast without getting an injury. Obviously, that's great for them.
Yeah,
He's got an extra bit of motivation here, which Oliveira does too. It's going to be a very interesting matchup, though.
it is. So I guess since you say that, and we're talking about, I totally get everything that you're saying. And then that's why for me, I was like going back and forth all day. Like, who do I?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I'm telling you, first round though, so I'm like making my claim here. I mean, it's tough to even like do that, to be honest with you.
But you can see that happening because you know that Chandler is so quick and so fast, which means that as soon as the bell rings, he's going to have to come out
Yeah.
like, quick. And he has those combinations. I just, man, that's a tough one. But I'm going to go Oliveira because I already said it. I don't know which round
Yeah,
though.
but and it's I completely understand. I mean, I think Chandler. I mean, I think both these guys are phenomenal athletes. I think Oliveira's really worked on his stand-up game, and we saw it against Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Just as well as I think Chandler's a great wrestler and is good on the ground. Obviously, I definitely classify Chandler as a stand-up fighter. If we had to pick grappler versus the stand-up fighter, I'd say Chandler is safe to say that would be stronger on his feet and
For
Oliveira
sure.
stronger on the ground.
For sure.
Obviously, those kind of matchups, Chelsea, and I know why you're saying this is because the grappler usually gets the advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But
That's
so
if he can take him down.
yeah, I mean that's I'm telling you, this is tough, and this is the kind of main event like we need. It's a matchup that again, the last time, no disrespect to Masvidal, I knew Usman was gonna win. I mean, it wasn't a kept secret between us. This is legitimately a 50-50 matchup right here.
It really is. And I think that's what's so fun about the lightweight division because you can kind of move all these guys around and it really is 50-50 on a lot of the different matchups. Yeah, Oliveira. I don't know. It's so hard. I think what's cool about Chandler though is his fighting style. And I think that's he's a really fun fighter to watch. But I'm just saying Oliveira because I would like to see, in my mind, I would like to see him obviously in the first round, stay standing, see how long you can go, try to go for a couple takedowns and see what you're able to maneuver with Chandler, see how he is on the ground and figure it out. Okay, what is he comfortable with? What does he get funky with? What does he kind of relax? What different parts on the ground does he relax more into that you can kind of try to submit him? Because I think Oliveira, most of his submissions have been like guillotines. I think he had a rear naked choke and, just, yeah, a lot of chokes. So that would be interesting to see if he's able to even get that far. I can see it going past the first round for sure. But I don't know how far after the first
I don't know.
round.
I mean, it's gonna be a good fight. I definitely can't wait for this. Oh my
I
God.
know.
So moving on with this, Cody Garbrandt's gonna fight. He's fighting Rob Font. I don't know if you heard about that fight.
I did not. Wait, he's fighting who?
Rob Font.
Rob Font.
Yes.
When is this fight supposed to be?
So it is next week, the 22nd. Actually,
Oh, that's the fight night.
Yep, birthday gift from you right there.
Wait, your birthday's next Saturday?
It'll be next week on Sunday.
Oh, happy early birthday.
Hey, thank you. It's a good, I mean, there's nothing better to do than watch a fight,
Heck no. Like that's the best way to enjoy your weekend. Dang, no, I didn't.
Fight.
I think so. Well, I don't really know too much about the Rob Hunt guy.
Okay.
Right? Hunt.
Font.
Funt.
Pronunciation class for myself.
Rob Font. Okay, well, tell me about Rob Font then,
So
because I know about.
he's coming off. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He freaking finished Marlon Moraes. I mean, just freaking got on the map with that. He's a hard hitter.
Mhm.
Definitely. So this is legitimately what I could tell you is that this is a banger of a matchup just because of the fact that we've seen, Cody Garbrandt, what he can do. Obviously, Cody's just coming off one win, but it was a solid highlight reel against Rafael Sunsao. He freaking
Mhm.
just decked them. And same thing with Font. Font was able to beat a tough guy in Marlon Moraes, who Moraes was, at some point, about to become, a champion in the UFC. Fortunately, Henry Cejudo got in his way, and it was more of a mental thing, in my opinion, there. But both of these guys have legitimate wins. I mean, I don't think though. So here's the bad part about this: we had this
Okay.
whole T.J. Dillashaw and Corey Sandhagen fiasco that legitimately broke my heart, folks. Legit, because I was looking forward to this, and I've told you this. I mean, how
Mhm.
excited was I for this fight? It
You're
was.
so excited. We've been
I
talking about this for months.
I know, and man, the injury happened and stuff. So I think Corey, more than anything, Corey's the one that loses because the winner of this fight, no disrespect to these guys, Corey doesn't win anything from beating one of these guys.
Mhm.
The winner of this fight, he doesn't. I think that he needs to wait to see when he can reschedule the TJ fight, and then I think that the winner of this fight can definitely be like the second in line, I guess, for a title shot. So that's going to be the tough one here. I think that it's a solid main event, but it kind of sucks sometimes though when you see a fight though, and that it means something, obviously, right? But you're trying to get a title shot. You're trying to get
Yeah,
that's what you're doing this for. A title shot. Everyone's got money.
that's the whole point. Is a
Yeah,
title
so
shot.
that's the UFC's in a weird spot there. So we'll see. I like Cody Garbrandt. Interesting though, man. Cody really fell off for a sec there.
He did. I wonder if that was, how you mentioned mental thing. I wonder if for Cody, if that was kind of like a mental thing, because I watched, which we may have even talked about this, but I watched some podcasts or interviews that
Okay.
he was in, and he was saying that for a while he was like really sick. He ended up getting sick somehow, and I don't know if it was from COVID or if it was from something else.
Yeah.
So don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But he just got really sick for a long period of time, and he said that just really messed him up. And yeah, like, I mean, it's nice to kind of see him get back, into what we saw Cody was doing beforehand, just like that electric fire, getting into
Yeah.
the octagon and hammering out those punches. That's what we want to see, because for a while he really did kind of fall off, and it just kind of seemed like he wasn't himself.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? So I saw Cody, I think, in his second fight in the UFC. He's going through all these massive finishes, real quick finishes. And I remember I was at a bar and some guy told me, "You see that guy there?" And it was Cody Garbrandt. That's the guy that's going to take down Dominic Cruz. That's the only
Oh,
guy that can take down Dominic Cruz. Sure enough, I mean, beat the brakes off Cruz. Dominated him. That was the best version of Cody that I think we've all seen. That was
agreed.
him at his peak, and anything after that, unfortunately, has been nothing close to that. Unfortunately, now obviously people want to debate. Well, was TJ was probably popping, the EPO stuff and all that stuff, and why don't we go back and test those things? And I think people need to like let's calm down, relax here.
Yeah.
From what I heard, don't quote me on this, but apparently when TJ got popped for that, I think it was for the Cejudo fight because he was
Mm-hmm.
cutting down to 125 and he said that he could barely make the cut.
Oh,
But again, you signed the contract. I mean, you got to know what you're in for, right?
it's your job.
Yeah. So I don't know. People want to argue that, debate that. Regardless, I mean, it's still a loss on your record. It's a setback,
Mm-hmm.
regardless on how people want to see that. So we'll definitely see. We'll keep an eye on that. It's going to be a good fight here. As we near the end, though, Chelsea, is there anything else you want to let the audience know?
I don't think
There
so.
we go. They can follow you though on Twitter, right? You're real active
Yes,
on Twitter.
I am. I'm very active on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is Chelsea Torres TV. Instagram, yes, I'm Chelsea.
Awesome. Hey, and just watch out for those Twitter users sometimes, man. They can be
Oh my gosh.
savages.
You saw like the whole Taylor Swift thing, right?
Yeah.
They
And
came after me.
yeah, I'm not so high on Taylor Swift. I'm saying it on the show right now, so I think we're fine.
Okay, good. Because I'm not like a big fan of hers. And man, they came out of the woodworks. Like she has some groupies. I mean, all respect to her. I just I just was surprised.
Oh my goodness. Well, that was Chelsea Torres, everybody. And if you're watching the fights, be safe. You're gonna drink, don't drive. They did remind people about that, but just let's be safe out there, folks. Enjoy the fights. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.